Hello and welcome to Fred Asquith on Film, a film and TV discussion show hosted by Fred Asquith. That's me. Hi. You can follow me on @FredAsquithOnFilm on TikTok and Instagram. You can watch me on YouTube @FredAsquithYT. If you're watching, go have a listen. And if you're listening, go have a watch. All the links can be found through my bio. Hey guys, how was that? I tried to do a really professional intro. I was like, I fucking spend like 3 minutes doing an intro every time. Like, let's do this properly. I think I smashed that. Fuck yeah, let's move on. Move on, housekeeping done. Today, we're going to be talking about, it's going to be an F1 special. F1 has been released, when is it released? Well, actually, as you're listening to this, it's been released last week. It was released on the 26th, and I managed to go to the premiere on the 23rd. I don't know why I'm specifying the dates. I guess just once again to prove to you that I'm better than you. I'm going to do a full rundown of the premiere, gossip, experience, and then the review of the movie itself, coming towards the end as a big crescendo. I won't be covering anything else in this episode because I think there's a lot to chew on. But next week we've got a Jurassic Rebirth review, and because I'll be seeing that between now and the next recording, and I'm also going to do a Scarlett Johansson Foscas during that same episode, so awarding alternative awards to Scarlett Johansson's filmography. And I've kind of been like, shall I do that on the week of release of the film that it refers to? Like with this one, Scarlett Johansson, or shall I do it before the film that it refers to? So like for Danny Boyle, I did it 2 weeks ago. For Brad Pitt, I did it last week. So like I'm just kind of feeling my way through. I think for Scarlett Johansson, I'm going to do it on the Jurassic Rebirth episode. So this is just an F1 premiere review and review. So just also to clarify, I was invited to the premiere by Heineken, and I made a little sketch for them for my Instagram. But none of the following is, either commissioned by Heineken to like say anything good or bad about the film. And it's also not, it's also not, what's the fucking word? Oh my God, I'm blanking. It's not commissioned by Heineken for me to say this. And it's also not, you know what I mean, basically. I'm not being paid to say anything. I haven't been told to do this review. Like, I'm always really clear about that when I do any deals with any invites or anything. And to be honest, I've had some kind of like pushback on that. And I'm just like, look, I want to be able to talk about it honestly and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, so that's that. I'd say the first thing that I experienced about this, this was definitely the best red carpet I've ever been on. So it was actually a blue carpet, potentially a black carpet. There was some confusion about that between me and Benedict Townsend, a friend of the show who may or may not be listening because he's so busy making 19,000 other projects that are all brilliant. But yeah, he seemed to think it was blue. I thought it was black. Anyway, it was a brilliant premiere because if anyone knows Leicester Square, there's the Odeon Lux Leicester Square down the kind of, what would you say, the east side of the square. And that's got quite a thin strip of pavement to work with to build a carpet on, get all the press in there, and get the space for people to walk down. And then there's the Cineworld Leicester Square, which is at the north end of Leicester Square. And it has a much bigger strip of pavement to deal with, although I've never seen a premiere use all of it. Like normally there's like a bit of garb outside and then inside the carpet is still quite thin. Like none of this fucking matters, can I just be clear? Like I actually don't give a shit about the materialism of premieres. I really don't care. Oftentimes I'm like almost a bit aggrieved to be invited because like I want to be able to pick my perfect seat. Long-time listeners of Foffle know that I have a cinema spreadsheet where I have my perfect seats all detailed in there. And so getting invited to premieres is actually leaving the experience up to the gods a little bit. Like you get given a seat, or sometimes it's unallocated, so you have to kind of like hope you get a good seat. You don't get to pick the cinema, so I'm not a massive fan of the Cineworld IMAX where I saw this, but like And that's not to say that like I'm ungrateful for these experiences. That's actually the opposite, in that like I don't buy into the materialism of it all. Like I'm happy just going to the cinema on my own, that's fine. But anyway, I'm invited. I'm happy to be invited. And for what it's worth, it was definitely the grandest carpet I'd been on. And they made real good use of that pavement space. The first thing not the first thing, but the thing I felt throughout the night was that this was definitely the starriest premiere or event I've ever been to, actually. Not only were the stars of the film there, who were starry enough, Brad Pitt, Kerry, Condon, who I'm really, really a big fan of, Damson Idris, all those. Not only that, and also we had the composer there, Hans Zimmer, obviously the director, Joseph Kosinski. You had the producer, Lewis Hamilton. But you also had Tom Cruise just showed up. Tom Cruise just like showed the fuck up. I guess because Joseph Kosinski directed Maverick, and I think Chris McQuarrie produced this, or I don't know, but Chris McQuarrie was also there, the director of Mission. I also got, they were just supporting a friend as well, but it was definitely a supporting cinema type of vibe. And I actually didn't see Tom Cruise in the flesh. I definitely had a look for him, but he's difficult to spot. He's fucking about 5'3", isn't he? So like, I was like this. Anyway, he was on the big screen. They had this like creator influencer like pen, kind of at the opposite end to the real celebrity like entrance of the red carpet. And I loved that, actually, because when you get thrown into the entrance that everyone gets thrown into, like with the celebrities, like I said last week, you often get like rushed along, and you actually, like, as a creator, like the carpet's all you get, really, because you're more often than not going to be given quite a shit seat in the cinema. Once the film starts, the event's all over. Like, we want to help the PR agencies like get content. So like, in my opinion, you should keep it on the carpet for as long as possible. And this one did. They made us like a kind of holding pen at the other end of the carpet. So all the kind of celebrity frenzy was on one side and all the creators were on the other side. So it meant that you could kind of look across and like catch glimpses of people. So like Brad Pitt was, over there. So I saw him in the flesh. And Hans Zimmer actually was really close. I put a little video of that on my Fred Asquith on Film Insta and TikTok. He was on the stage like doing an interview. Oh, and Jerry Bruckheimer, the producer. So they had this stage for interviews in the middle. I went off to get another Heineken 00 for the sake of the filming that I was doing. And I came back and my darling was like, "Oh, I got a picture with a man." And I said, "Okay, just a man?" "No, he was on stage." "Oh, okay. And who was it?" And she showed me the picture, and it was Jerry Bruckheimer. Fucking 80-year-old legendary producer. I was like, "That's Jerry Bruckheimer, all right? It's not just a man." How did you get a picture? She said, "Oh, I just screamed for him." I was like, "What did you scream?" "Man! Man! I'd like a picture." What on earth? And the picture is so funny. It's just him, like, arms by his sides, just behind my darling. Neither of them knew who the other was. Just the most unnecessary picture. So there was all them. And then, once we got into the cinema, there was more stars. And again, I don't give a shit about this really. But it is, some people do. And also it's notable, at least, right? I'm not going to not mention the fact that there was loads of celebrities there, because it is quite notable, and it passed the time. So we got in there, and there was lots of we got into our reserved seats, and then there was lots of seats reserved that were unfilled, and up until just before the film started, and I nudged my darling, I was like, "These are going to be filled by some famous people," because famous people don't go sit down in the Cineworld IMAX 20 minutes before the film starts just to munch on their popcorn and get hounded by the people around him. Because like Ed Sheeran is another person who was there, and he did come in quite early, actually. So there was a full row of reserved seats right in the middle, and Ed Sheeran came in kind of first and sat there for about 10 minutes before the film started, and people just wouldn't fucking leave him alone. And this was my ethos for the evening, by the way. I was like, I don't want to bother anyone. So like on the way in, I walked really close to Chris McQuarrie, like as close as I am to this fucking pint glass, right? And I was like, I could talk to him about Mission, and to be honest, I didn't really like Mission, so what the fuck am I going to say to him? I loved Mission, am I going to lie? No, just don't talk to him. So I just walked past him. I was like, why am I wasting your time, wasting his time? And equally, I like to think I would have left Ed Sheeran alone if he sat behind me. But anyway, someone did sit behind me and my darling, and it was Naomi Campbell, the model. But not only that, so I was in like the lower left side. I was in seat E55, which is like quite low on the left-hand side. And you really had to kind of like angle right and above to like see this giant screen, which is mostly on top of you. And Naomi Campbell was she was in G like 50. So she wasn't in a great seat. I was like, what is happening here? She's like one of the most famous models ever to have lived, probably one of the most famous people, British people certainly, to have ever lived, and she's in seat G50 for the F1 premiere. Could we not get her a better seat? Also, the fact that she was even there is just hilarious. Like, if this premiere was at the Odeon Lux Leicester Square, that kind of suits celebrities in a different way, because it looks quite plush, like it has an Art Deco like inside with like real nice raffia work. I don't know the fucking words. And the seats are kind of like plush and sort of more corporate looking. But in the Cineworld IMAX, it's just like it's just an IMAX that like Bob and Ben, the Flower Pot Men, go and sit in every weekend. It's just like, it's all like faux leather seats and like red neon lights and like popcorns and just like fizzy drink stains on the carpet. And I'm like, Naomi Campbell's here, and she sat in seat G50, like such a wank seat. I hope she hasn't got a shoot on Monday, because she's going to have a crick neck. She's going to look it up the whole time. Be like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't pull that pose. I went to the F1 premiere, and they're going to be a wank cold seat. And then, like I say, Lewis Hamilton was there. Hans Zimmer was a really cool one to see. I know I've mentioned that already, but yeah. So there was just all these people knocking about, and like I say, not that interesting, but notable. I'm going to... what else is to note about the premiere just before I head into the review? Oh, yeah, so I guess I'll skip ahead on this note, and just to say, the person that I saw that most excited me, actually, and I also think this was to do with the proximity of where they were when I saw them, was after the film, we were walking back through the foyer, and I walked past Daniel Kaluuya. I think I know why this is most notable to me, actually. It's because, one, I love him. I absolutely love him. Everything from Get Out through to Widows, like, I think he should be an option for James Bond. Because I talked about Damson Idris last week. Did I talk about Damson Idris last week? No, I was going to talk about it this week. Anyway, I love him. But also, it's the very fact that I walked so close to him and didn't notice until I'd kind of gone by him. And then... finally, it was because he was like just on his phone. Like he wasn't with anyone being like celeb-y. He was just on his phone, leant against the railing, like waiting for someone to come out. I don't know who, probably Ed Sheeran, probably Naomi Campbell. I don't fucking know. And it was just kind of the nonchalance of him. Because when you see celebrities at an event like this, it's always like cameras, smiley. But he was just like, I didn't even know he was there. He was just slumped. Not slumped. He looked great. He was just like stood looking cool as fuck on the stairs. And anyway, people were bothering him as well, and I chose not to bother him as well. But because I watched him, and it must have been so annoying because like he was clearly like aware of the fact that like he's Daniel Kaluuya and he's in a foyer full of regular people. And so he was trying to keep like quite nondescript. He had his head down, he was on his phone, and like naturally everyone was spotting him. It's hard not to, because he's just like, he's got to be one of the most famous British actors out there right now. And so like I didn't go up to him, but a lot of people were like tapping him on the shoulder, picture. He went looking back down at his phone, tapping on the shoulder, picture. So like the in-between phone sessions were only like 10 seconds long. And like, look, he probably wasn't doing anything important on his phone, but I'm just saying he was clearly trying to keep a low profile, and I got a window into like how I guess frustrating it must be to move around as a famous person and just kind of not be able to detach from the room, you know? So anyway, there was an announcement from the cast and crew beforehand. Joseph Kosinski, Jerry Bruckheimer, Brad Pitt came on and pretended to smack Damson Idris with a microphone. That was funny-ish. It was very kind of clappy because it was such a starry audience and it was such a plus one-y audience, right? And what I mean by that is like every time someone got announced or every time someone got called out or whatever, there was like very specific pockets of cheering from like clearly groups of people who came to support one particular person. So like there were a few like cameo actors who were in the crowd got called out, and then there were like pockets of cheering for those people, pockets of cheering for Damson Idris. Obviously many pockets for Damson Idris, but it just felt like there was like groups of people who were friends of the people who were up there and on screen. And turns out they called out a few of the cameo actors in the film to say, hey, stand up. I was sat right next to one of them. I can't remember her name. I'm so sorry. She was in about 3 scenes, and it was really cool actually to watch it and watch her on screen. And I wasn't looking for her reaction because she didn't know who the fuck I was, and it would have been really creepy. But out of the corner of my eye, I guess I could see like her body language change when she came on screen. And that was really like fun to feel like I could sense that experience of like watching herself in this premiere. Because look, she's probably got a brilliant career and I'm probably being really rude not remembering her name. But at the end of the day, it's the F1 premiere. However big you are at that level, it must be exciting to see yourself in that situation. So yeah, like I say, it was a very kind of clappy, supportive cinema, and that's important because I want to make the point that like from the very beginning of this film, people and well, look, let's be honest, PR representatives took it upon themselves to clap at various points in the film. When the title card came up, when the directed by Joseph Kosinski came up, I should say now, I'm going to review this film pretty spoilery, okay? I find it quite difficult to review films without spoilers completely. And sometimes I do slight spoilers. But I'm kind of going to go in on this one, especially because this is coming out a few days after that it's been released. Hopefully everyone who's dying to see this film will have seen it over the weekend. So I'm going to go in spoilery. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers, stop listening now. There are moments when Brad Pitt's character, Google the synopsis if you really want to know, but Brad Pitt is an aging F1 driver who comes back to F1 for one last hurrah to help a failing team. And there's moments where he like comes back walking down the paddock really triumphantly and people were clapping that. And I found that really funny to be like, this is obviously like PR provoked clapping breaks in order to like build hype in the room for the film. And it kind of worked because like when the film started, I was like, fuck, here we go. It came hand in hand with it being such a starry event. I was like, bloody hell, this PR effort, they really think they've got something good here. I'm excited for this film probably more than I was before having just seen the trailer. And everyone's clapping. It's a real good atmosphere. Like it felt like the premierest premiere I've ever been to. It was like, oh yeah, that we're really promoting the film tonight. I'll take a sip of my juice. So, the movie started, clap, 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 clap. F1 is obviously, for context, is a spiritual sequel to Maverick, Top Gun Maverick, also directed by Joseph Kosinski, and that is why, and also produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, and that is why Tom Cruise and Chris McQuarrie were there, right? It's a spiritual sequel to Maverick in the sense that Maverick put us on the wing of F-16s, fighter jets, with IMAX cameras, and saved cinema by doing like a visceral, heart-pounding, like action blockbuster, right? In a way that we'd never really seen. And although this is a sporting movie, it is still in essence planting IMAX cameras on the sides of very fast things, and with it being the same director and the same producer, it's a spiritual sequel to Maverick. And I want to say that because I want to come straight out the gate and say those two are not the same, okay? Maverick is a far superior film to F1, and over the course of the next however many minutes, I want to detail why. And I will say up top, if you dislike Maverick, and whether or not you like or dislike F1, I think you probably won't like this because this is a pound shot Maverick. If you love Maverick, this is also going to be relevant to you because I love Maverick. So it feels hokey from the get-go. So it opens with kind of Brad Pitt on a test track. Brad Pitt competing in the Daytona 24-hour race, I believe it is. Or it might have been on a test track. I've jumbled up the races. There are a lot of races in this film. Which is fair. It's called F1. And I kind of clocked in the first scene. I was like, okay, it's not F1 cars yet. But there's something about this race imagery that feels too slick. It feels almost plastic. It feels almost like AI generated or AI corrected. I'm sure it wasn't, but let's just say like CGI generated, CGI corrected. And that really kind of icked me out because like, going in there as a Maverick fan, Maverick is the beacon of like a movie that can put you in the driving seat of an F-16. Like you were in the driving seat and everything looked so tangible and tactile. And I really felt like, although they give it the blockbuster polish and they really zhuzh it up as usual, I really felt like I could feel the engine. I understood the force of these things, right? And from the very first scene, I didn't feel that in F1. I made a note that of the phrase "uncanny valley." You know that phrase of still this happens sometimes, but certainly in the noughties and tens when CGI was done of like de-aging people's faces. I mean that definitely still happens, or I don't know, things that are supposed to look photoreal, but they're not quite photoreal, and you kind of get like that looks off, and I'm not really sure why it looks off. I think it was a phrase invented by Mark Kermode, but it's a great phrase, uncanny valley. What's the best example of uncanny valley? Let me have a think. Probably something like, I don't know why the robot in iRobot is coming to mind. Just looks a bit fucking weird. Definitely a lot of stuff in the Star Wars prequels. Definitely the de-aging in X-Men 3. What was that called? The Last Stand? I think that had some de-aging of Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart. That was Uncanny Valley. Oh my God, they de-aged Brad Pitt in this film, and that was Uncanny Valley as well. Not only the fucking cars. Oh my God, I'm so happy I remembered this. They fucking... So that people were clapping and so supportive of this film, but when they showed clips, why the fuck they did this, I don't know, of Brad Pitt supposedly as a younger driver, people laughed. You couldn't help but laugh because the de-aging technology is not good enough, and they had this fucking wig on him, and it looked fucking shit. He looked like Rod Stewart had just gone through a fucking laundrette. It was nuts. I'm so happy I remembered that. The reason why they did that was because part of the story is, again, spoilers if you didn't get my warning before, is that Brad Pitt's character had suffered a horrendous crash early in his career, and they wanted to show the clip of that crash. But they could have done that without showing the de-aged Brad Pitt. They could have just had him in the cockpit with the helmet on. You can de-age his eyes quite easily, I'm sure. Anyway. The driving felt uncanny valley, not the same as Maverick's authenticity. You can't feel the machinery, the grunting, the grinding. Everything is too slick. And I actually think, although F1 is a slick sport, I think the magic of F1, and as a semi-F1 fan, I'm not a giant F1 fan, but I've certainly watched it. As a semi-F1 fan, my perspective is that the beauty of F1 is in the slickness and in the grunty, gritty griminess of it, okay? This is like the most polished and pristine sport and probably the richest sport on planet Earth per capita. But you also understand the engineering that's gone into it, the grunting of the engine, the power of the cars, the pure torque and risk involved, both come hand in hand. And I guess my point is that I think this movie F1 had too much of the slick and not enough of the dick. You know what I mean? I just said it because it rhymed, but you know what I mean? Just not enough of the oomph. And so it felt kind of televisual, actually, in some ways. And so, yeah, this Uncanny Valley and this kind of plasticky televisual issue continued throughout the film, and even in the penultimate like crescendo racing scenes, I was like, I'm just not believing this. And that's so crucial. It's such a crucial issue for a sport that is so well televised. You know, we have cockpit view now. We have like views that show the driver controls. We have views that look back, or from the wing that look back, from the wing that look forward. We have brilliant like 4K broadcast views from the side of the track. Like, we have all this footage in real life that shows the difficulty and the risk of the sport week in, week out. And so this film, to be fair, did have a job at replicating that and building on that in a way that took us somehow further into that experience. I don't think it's achieved that at all. I actually not only think it pales in comparison to the televisual experience, but pales in comparison even to the Drive to Survive experience, which is really saying something. You know, the Netflix documentary that recaps seasons of F1. The visual experience of Drive to Survive, fair enough, isn't as like, you know, it's not fucking IMAX. It's not like, it's not cinematic in the same way, but it is as visceral, I actually think. I actually think is possibly more visceral and more emotive. And that's really saying something. And another thing that it differs and doesn't work as well in terms of Drive to Survive and obviously the television broadcast is the commentary. So from the very beginning, I'm talking, I think, yeah, the very first race, the Daytona 24-hour race, which is a scene that's supposed to establish that Brad Pitt's character is a good driver. You know, meat and drink, let's get this plot going. We're following a good driver who's maybe past his prime, blah, blah, blah. In order to do that exposition, they don't just show us it, but they tell us it throughout using the mechanism of commentary. And this is just such a fumble. So commentary being present in sport in movies is not new and isn't in and of itself bad. It can be done so well. I can't think of a dramatic example for now, but a well-done example, at least, if only in a comedic sense, was the commentary in like Happy Gilmore, right? Golf movie. The commentary really adds to the movie, and I'm thinking of more comedy ones now. Dodgeball, you know, you've got Jason Bateman as a commentator. What's a dramatic sports film with commentary? Fucking Ford v Ferrari, possibly? No, maybe Rush. There's F1 with commentary as well. I'm not sure, but it can work, is my point. And it doesn't work in this film. Because from the word go, and they don't rectify this even towards the end, the commentary is clearly scripted. We'll come back to that. Clearly recorded, like, away from the track. We'll come back to that. And way too expositional. So, way too expositional, just to go off, is just to say, you know, commentary on TV is not describing who these drivers are all the time. It's not describing their emotional journey all the time, or like where they are specifically in relation to other drivers all the time, or like technicalities about what they're deciding to do with the car. Like, it's way too expositional, but you can 100% let that off, because if that's, you know, you have to somehow introduce non-F1 fans to the F1 world in a way that's appealing to a mainstream audience, and commentary is a way to do that, okay? But the first 2 points, clearly scripted and clearly recorded away from like track or live conditions, that's extremely important. Now, I know that they're going to want to get real life F1 commentators to commentate on the fake races in the film. And I understand that they're not going to be able to showcase these races in any live way to these commentators in order to react live. But it doesn't mean it's not a problem, okay? Because that's not my problem. That's their problem, okay? I'm not here to tell them how they could have got the real F1 commentators to do this in an authentic way. I'm just here to say that they didn't, okay? And whether that's down to the direction or the conditions that they recorded that in, whatever that is, the commentary is absolutely not authentic enough in terms of the delivery, and then also in terms of the production, or should I say the post-production of this commentary. In every single scene, they've added like an echo, almost loudspeaker effect, almost like it's a tannoy, right, over the track. That effect is on the commentary throughout, and that might come across as a small point. It's actually not, because as someone who loves F1 and enough, and there'll be people listening to this who love F1 a lot more than me, it's actually really jarring, because that's not the way that F1 is experienced at all for the average viewer. Because unless you have thousands of pounds to be able to go to a Grand Prix, and even if you do, you might be able to do it once, right? I've done it once when I was 10 years old. I was so thankful to go, pitched up with my dad. It was one of the best weekends of my life. Or maybe I was 12, whatever. But the way we all experience F1 generally, as normal folk, is we watch it on telly. And the telly commentary has a certain aesthetic, has a certain sound, and it is certainly not heard over a tannoy, over a loudspeaker. And so I guess it was kind of trying to give the sense that we were on the track with these cars and we were hearing it over the loudspeaker. But it really felt jarring, inauthentic, odd, just off. And it started a sense for me, and it was so expositional as well, it started a sense for me that this film may not have been made by people who love F1. And this is knowing the fact that Lewis Hamilton was an executive producer on this film. I've spoken with my friend Zohair about this. Our theory is, as a pair of F1 fans, Lewis Hamilton probably had a meeting or two, and that was about it. Like, he maybe watched the finished film and was like, yeah, you know, it's good, and blah, blah. Like, he's not on set, right? He might have looked through the script in a cursive way, like to tick a box or something. But I'm convinced that Lewis Hamilton was not used as a genuine day-to-day source of knowledge on this, because he would have called out quite a lot of things, that, including this, but also things we'll come on to. I mean, maybe he was, and maybe he didn't feel he was in a place to question the movie bods. But I'm guessing that he probably wasn't. So yeah, it feels television and cheap. There's weak B plots that don't quite work. Even though I know they filmed on location in real cars, it almost always feels like we never ever get under the skin of this experience, like I said. And there's no oil on the hands, no bolts being tightened. Maybe that's not what this sport represents, but still, show me that, you know. And what I mean by that is literally, there is so much engineering that goes into F1. There is so many intricacies, and like the pit lane working so hard to physically make these cars fit for driving 200 miles an hour. And unlike a compatriot movie such as Ford versus Ferrari or Rush, we do not get a sense of that build or engineering grime whatsoever. We get a sense of the slick side of engineering. You know, we have scenes in wind tunnels and aerodynamic chat, and you know, they change a front wing. That's part of the plot, is that they change a front wing. And we do have some pit stop scenes. But like I say, you never get oil on your hands. You never really feel like you're in there, in the down and dirty, with the nuts and bolts of F1 as a sport. And I think that's really important. And Ford versus Ferrari is goated in that sense. I think Ford versus Ferrari is about, I think it's Le Mans, right? Or maybe it's a different race, but it's about a 24-hour race, I believe, and it's brilliant. It's Christian Bale, Matt Damon, and you really do feel like you get in and amongst the engineering and the grime in that film. Fair enough, it's not F1, but it does lay a template for what a film like this could and possibly should be. And so I don't think this is a really important point. I'm going to take a sip of my juice to build up to this point. I don't think F1 fans are going to like F1. That's such an important point. So the commentary issue, the Uncanny Valley issue, but also, and here's the most important point, the plot points in this movie that are related to racing are absolutely fucking ridiculous. Everyone who knows F1 even a little bit knows the regulations that are involved in F1. And again, that's not my problem, okay? That's not my problem. I just know that, okay? Because the argument would be, I'm basically going to come on to say that, like, the regulations of what we know in real life are overstepped way too much and way too often in this film, but I'll come on to that. That's not my problem, because the argument would be, oh, well, it's a movie and they need to find some way to get across the drama. Yeah, I completely agree. But don't commit heresy on the or sacrilege or whatever the word is on the sport itself when you're trying to make money off a movie about the sport, right? And I don't begrudge people trying to make money about anything, right? That's fine, go for it, and I hope good luck to you. But you have to work within the parameters of the sport that you should know and love. And I don't think the cast and crew genuinely knew and genuinely loved F1. I don't believe that Joseph Kosinski has spent hours of his life sat there on a Sunday morning watching F1 before he started producing this film. I'm sure he did loads of research, but I'm just not feeling it, okay? There are moments in this film where Brad Pitt's character decides to break regulation, clear and very strict regulation in Formula One world, real world, multiple times in a way that not only endangers himself, endangers his fellow driver, Damson Idris, but also endangers the drivers around him, right? And I'm not trying to come across as like fucking, what is it called? Ryan Regulations guy. Okay. I just made that up. I don't know why I said what's it called. I just made something up. Ryan the Regulator. Okay. I know that's the most boring thing ever to say. It's a movie, Fred. Get over it. If Brad Pitt wants to drive through a bollard in order to get the race a yellow flag, or if he wants to smash his front wing off to get the race a red flag and bunch the cars up, then that's just drama, bro. Yeah, I know, but you are making a film called F1, fully backed by F1, with Lewis Hamilton as a producer. You are clearly going for an F1 audience. You clearly want this to be a legitimate representation of F1. This isn't like Days of Thunder, where it's like, yeah, it's NASCAR, but you know, it's not really a NASCAR-backed project as far as I know. This isn't like Talladega Nights. Like, this isn't like fucking Ford versus Ferrari, or this isn't like Rush, where like Rush wasn't backed by the Formula One. This is like, it's called F1. It's backed by F1, and you are depicting the world of F1 in such an unrealistic sense that it's just not tenable for me. It's not tenable for me, and I'm a pretty casual F1 fan, so I don't think F1 fans, big fans, are actually going to like it, and that's a fucking problem, because my darling, she isn't a fan of F1. She actually knew nothing going into this, and she didn't come out saying, oh yeah, that was fucking great. Like, she came out saying it was okay, but yes, she agreed with me that sometimes it was a little bit ridiculous. Even her. And she doesn't know about the FIA regulations or anything like that. So, like, what are we doing here? Like, that just took me out of the movie completely. And in that sense, actually, this is actually a decent segue to my next point. My next point is, it could have been written by AI. Every beat is predetermined, I've written here. That's almost becoming a cliche. God, did you write this using ChatGPT? It really does feel like that. It feels like they copied and pasted the screenplay for Maverick into GPT, and they were like, write me one about Formula One. Because the incidents at play that are required in order to hit the beats of a movie are all there, and are all way too extreme for the world, as discussed. But also, all the beats you would expect to have been hit have been hit exactly and precisely at the exact points you would have been hit. Brad Pitt's washed out. He's riding Daytona. He's very good at driving. Javier Bardem, old friend, comes and recruits him. No, I'm not going to do it. Oh, yes, I am. Goes to the paddock. Wow, he's here. Drives. Something goes wrong. Drives again. Starts to get better. Drives again. Partnership with Damson. I'm only about a third way through the film there with that play-by-play. But if you haven't seen this and you are listening to my spoiler review like a maniac, could absolutely go see this film. Sorry, you could absolutely write down the plot of this film to a 90% accuracy before you go see it. To the point where, and this is a big spoiler, so really do stop listening now if you really don't want to hear this. To the point where about 3/4 or whatever through the film, there's the scene that we all know is coming. And even Ford versus Ferrari does this, to be fair, but I like Ford vs. Ferrari. It does it better, let's just be honest. There's a scene where Kerry, Condon and Brad Pitt, in their blossoming relationship are having a chat in the paddock at night time. And Brad Pitt says, there's a moment where I'm driving and everything stops. My heartbeat slows. And in that moment, I'm flying, right? It's a bit longer than that, but essentially it's like a spiritual moment within the car, right? And I just checked out at that point because I was like, fucking okay then, we've got 30 minutes left of this movie. Get the final race going. He's going to be flying in the final race, isn't he? We're going to have a silent audio track. We're going to hear some heartbeat. He's going to focus in. We're going to see lots of shots of his eyes and whatever he needs to do, he's going to do. And I'm like, I know that these things are coming in films like this, but you want them to be delivered to you in a slightly more subtle way or a slightly more sophisticated way than simply just the night before the race telling me that this happens and then it happens. Even a quick fix would just be setting this up earlier in the film, maybe, so I just forget about it a bit. But I was like, fucking night before the race, you're just setting up what's supposed to be an emotional moment, and I'm like, because in the speech before the film, Brad Pitt said, I reckon you're going to get chills at the end of this one. And that was his final line. And I was like, when that scene came on, I was like, is this what he meant? Really? You think you can just get us with this? It's not enough. It's not enough. So every beat is predetermined. Also, I just want to delve into three kind of performance-y topics. The relationship between Brad and Kerry Condon, again, you didn't need me to tell you that was going to happen, and you don't need me to tell you that they've written Kerry Condon, as I understand why they do this, they've written Kerry Condon as like, by the way, let me just caveat this. I want Hollywood to pursue strong female characters. What I think Hollywood don't get about strong female characters is that a strong female character doesn't mean that this is actually so true. I've never thought about it like this. A strong female character doesn't mean that they have to not want a relationship. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm actually in support of strong female characters who might want a relationship because that's okay. Because strong male characters are allowed to want relationships. Brad Pitt wants a relationship. It's become a cliche now, and it's become a box-ticking exercise of Hollywood to be like, no, yeah, Kerry Condon's character is going to be a strong female character. All good, great intentions, go for it, thank you. And she's, she didn't even want she didn't want anything to do with Brad Pitt. She's just focused on her work. That's actually a cliche that is like, what's the word? It's actually forged by patriarchy, because the patriarchy has forced women and also female characters in Hollywood. It's forced us to think that in order to be successful, a woman has to be more like a traditional cliched man. I believe we've got past that point now. I believe that's actually a subordinate way of painting a strong female character. Oh yeah, let's just make them more like a man. Let's make them tough. Let's make them able to fight. I'm not saying women can't do those things. I'm not saying women have to want a relationship. I'm not saying men can or can't or have to want a relationship. My point is that anything goes because we're on an equal footing now. And it's actually, in my opinion, pejorative to female characters to assume that they're going to be strong just because they don't want a relationship and they're good in the office. Do you know what I mean? That's not good enough anymore. Like, you're actually making it worse, man who wrote this. Do you get what I'm saying? So Kerry Condon, obviously she didn't want anything to do with Brad, and then obviously they get together. This is my fucking point. This is my point. If you want to write a strong female character who doesn't want a relationship, because that's a completely legitimate female character, because obviously there are women in the world who don't want relationships with or without Brad Pitt, right? That's fine. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. What I'm saying is you're actually You're actually undermining your own point about the strength of this character by making her get with him anyway. Oh, fucking hell. I don't actually know who wrote this movie. Maybe it was a woman who wrote this movie. Either way, it doesn't matter, right? If it's woman or man, either way, this is paint by numbers, strong female character writing that is actually the opposite. You've written a strong female character, quote unquote, who doesn't want a relationship. She just wants to focus on the racing. But then Brad manages to woo her anyway. You've just contradicted your own fucking point. Do you get what I'm saying? Oh, well, I guess I will want a relationship in the end anyway, because that is secretly what I want as a woman. That's what it's saying. Oh, it's so fucking annoying. So they get together, and that relationship sucks. I'm so sorry it took me so long to get to that point, but that relationship sucks. Forget what I just said. Everything I just said is separate to that point. It sucks because there's no chemistry. There is no chemistry between Brad and Kerry. There's no chemistry between the characters themselves. It's not working. That's a really important issue. Because I think, again, in Maverick, there is chemistry between Tom Cruise and Jennifer Connelly, even though it's actually not a central point of that movie. But there is chemistry. And it's actually probably more thinly written, but still better. I don't know. Brad Pitt's performance is not working for me. I said in my Brad Pitt Fofskers, sipping my juice, sorry. I said in my Brad Pitt Fofskers that he has quite a laid back line delivery and often in a lot of his roles. So the one that sticks out for me is probably Moneyball and The Big Short. If you watch The Big Short, one of my favorite movies, by the way, in his role in that movie, he's supposed to be playing quite a humdrum, laid-back, detached ex-stockbroker, right? It's actually not a bad reference point, really. His laid-back line delivery, when he's playing laid-back characters, sometimes comes across as, like, very reedy, you know, like he's reading it, literally, like it's almost a bit, like, done in this kind of tone of voice. And he's kind of like, yeah, well, I don't know about doing that kind of voice. And his tone is always quite similar. And he's just, like, just reads it and it finishes. And, like, and there's no real intonation, and you're not really seeing much change behind the eyes. And I think that works in some films. I think in this film it didn't. I think this character had to be a slightly more lovable character, slightly more life behind the eyes, and I don't think it's actually working. Damson Idris is doing his best to balance quite a confused role. He's both a hero and an antagonist. At times, he's an antagonist within the same team as Brad. At times, they're working together. It's sort of like a semi Iceman Maverick situation, again, to reference that movie. But again, not painted half as well, because I don't think the writing was sure whether they wanted Damson Idris' character to be completely antagonistic. And equally, I don't accuse Damson Idris of not being able to decode that screenplay in that way, because I think he had a very tough job of trying to balance likable and dislikable at the same time. Some moments of comedic levity that are supposed to be audience appealing, you know, it's not like a villain comedic levity. And then also some moments of true antagonism, and he has to switch back and forth between those things. I think that was a super hard role And I don't think he achieves what needed to be achieved because it was written badly. I think his performance was as good as it could be, is the point I'm making. The one role and performance that I think does work well is Javier Bardem as the kind of like team boss. He recruits Brad Pitt. He is a authoritative figure with kind of flashes of comedic relief. And I think we know he can do that from Dune Part 2. He was the highlight of that movie, and he probably is the highlight of this movie. Anytime he's on screen, he's sizzling. He looks incredible. The suits are incredible. His dramatic line delivery is bang on, and his comedic line delivery is bang on. And somehow he's able to retain the authoritative aspect of his characters, because he does do this a lot, as well as keeping them funny, like people you can point and laugh at. He does that very well. It's the whole thing is so Damson Idris could be an option for Bond, in my opinion. I think he's got what it takes. I think he's early 30s, maybe even late 20s, but just fucking go for it. And speaking of Daniel Kaluuya in The Foyer After, I think he should be an option for Bond as well. And I think he's slightly older. He's definitely slightly older. So all in all, I thought it was cliche, flat, cheesy. There's even a villain arc from a different kind of corporate backed character towards the end that you could absolutely have written in without seeing it. The way that ends is not only how you would have expected it to end, but it's fucking clunky at the same time. It's like not even though it's paint by numbers, they're painting it badly. Do you know what I mean? They're actually not putting the right paint with the right number. And so my final issue is this is a 2-hour 30 movie. Why? This is a 2-hour 30 movie. It's a paint by numbers sporting movie plot. A to B to C to D to E to F. 1, right? You know exactly what's going to happen at every single point of the fucking film. So why is it 2 hours 30? Are you telling me that this movie with these cliched beats could not have been written under 2 hours? Is that what you're telling me? Because it's not fucking true. It's not fucking true. Speaking of which, could it have been written by AI? I'm sure AI could have cut this down to 2 hours. Get that screenplay in there. Get that 160 page screenplay in GPT. Get it chopped down, right? It's full of exposition, bloated race scenes. There's also the steps to the finale is just like so many race scenes. They all blur into one. They're not distinctive. I don't get a sense of where they are, even though they have title cards of the races. And there's so many B plots that suck. There's so many plot points that are so cliched and yet so labored. Get through it. Brad Pitt, washed up driver, comes back to F1, starts off slow, gets better, antagonistic relationship with his team partner that then resolves, finale, win, finish. That's a 2 hour movie, not a 2 hour 30 movie. Thank you and good night. Hire me for the sequel F2. All right. So I haven't rated this on Letterboxd yet. Follow me on Letterboxd, Fred Asquith, same profile picture. But I think I'm going to give it like a 2.5. I might give it a 3. I'm not sure. I just think this is a dud. I think they've really fumbled it here. And you may go see this film, right? And I completely understand if this is the case. As an F1 fan or not, you may disagree with me. Or you may go see this film and find that you disagree with me because you may nominally enjoy this film. Because I'm not saying I was like bored. I mean, I kind of was. But at the end of the day, some of the cinematography in there is fun, if not on point. And Javier Bardem's fun, and it, like, on paper, it's a super fun concept and a super fun execution of that concept. So you may go to this film and be like, yeah, I enjoyed it. And maybe that's all you want. And maybe that's fine. And if you deem that as fine, then fine. But that, to me, that's not fine. To me, that's like the absolute bare minimum that I should expect from a movie about F1 starring Brad Pitt, produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, directed by the director of Maverick, that took 4 years to make. It being not boring and nominally entertaining is like bottom of the fucking bucket, page 1, chapter 1, right? It's like, take it for granted. And for me, there is nothing beyond that. Wow, I really enjoyed that. Thank you very much for joining me, Fred, at Fred Asquith on Film on TikTok and Instagram. At Fred Asquith YT on YouTube. If you're listening, go have a watch. You can see all my big neon sign and my glass of juice every time I drink it, and all my gesticulations. I always listen to poddies and I can't imagine how they're speaking. I just imagine them like a head in a jar. Go watch all my gesticulations. And if you watched it on YouTube, thank you very much. You are my favorites, technically. But also, go and subscribe on one of the audio platforms available through the link in bio, or you can search at Fred Asquith on Film, because seeing those numbers go up, which I am, is really, really exciting. I'm really loving this, and I'm really excited for where this poddy is going. So thanks for watching. And I'll see you next time for Jurassic World Rebirth, I should say, and the Scarlett Johansson Foscas. All right, see you next time. You watch me, I'm going to do a thumbnail. Actually, yeah, I'm going to do a thumbnail now. I'm going to keep this in the recording for the thumbnail for the YouTube. What is it going to be, me looking kind of angry like? What the? Oh my God. You know? Good thumbnails. All right, cool. I'm off. Bye-bye.